everyone, and welcome to another interview with Youth Town Hall. Today, we are here with June Splawn, who is a freelance photographer in the Harrisburg area. They have documented important events in our community through the art of photography. Welcome, June. June, can you talk about your personal journey to becoming a photographer?
Yes, I could. I can. First and foremost, may I say it's an honor to be part of this interview. It's really nice to have a conversation with people and just talk about photography and where to go with photography in general. To answer your question, I didn't really know what I wanted to be in terms of making career moves. I went to Penn State Harrisburg thinking that I was to just being a radio host. And then I just decided to be a photographer. And that was because I started off just doing photo shoots for just clubs. I remember I did a photo shoot for my Black Student Union club, and I just remembered what a good feeling I had when it came to it. And I wanted to do a whole lot more of that, but I didn't know where to go. So when I was on break, I would usually just go out to the city of Harrisburg and just take pictures. And so by that, I just learned and honed my craft. And I was just last year, 2020 was an explosion of social justice and political movements and protesting. And wherever that was, so was myself and my camera. And I believe that was the moment where I realized I wanted to become a photographer. And that was pretty much my journey.
Um, what does photography mean to you? And is there something specific that inspires you to continue on this path?
Yes. So photography is the study of human beings in general. It's kind of like TikTok. Yes, it seems simple, but at the same time, it's very powerful. It brings people together. It creates a huge, how do I say this? A huge explosion of culture. With photography, you can take a simple selfie with your friends or go to a football stadium and you can just interpret so many of just how human beings have gone together and done all these amazing things and more. And the best part about photography is you get to preserve these moments. You get to tell the younger generation what happened, and you get to ask them, what do you think this is all about? And something that really inspires me is just human beings in general. We may not be the perfect type of human being around, considering that we're the only ones. But there's something about us, our ability to inspire, our ability to accept our imperfections and work on them in order to see a better tomorrow is what makes everything just worthwhile in terms of photography. I would go around the city of Harrisburg and I would see people hugging each other or crying or just full of like a kaleidoscope of emotions. And I think that's what makes my photography so powerful. Not because I say I'm a photographer, it's because the world around me hide imperfections and all. And that's what makes it wonderful.
Okay, thank you. And then our next question is, what drew you into covering local issues or events like such as the protests from last year?
If I'm really to be honest with you guys, I was just extremely lucky to see all these protests happening. It is unfortunate that we have to see these protests, especially with the situation of George Floyd. And during the whole COVID pandemic, there was a lot of uncertainty. I remember I was watching a local news event, saying that Harrisburg protesters were down in the city. And for some reason, I just thought to myself, well, I want to go down there. So I took my camera and I was looking for the protests. And when I was driving down, I saw a huge crowd of people just walking in front of me. And so I just parked my car and I just joined the crowd. And from then on out, I just decided just to look up protests and events on Facebook, on social media, and at the same time, just taking pictures.
Would you say that protest photography and activism are really like your motif for your series right now?
I don't really have a set series or motifs. My motto is wherever I go, my camera goes with me. But it's always been important to have that because no matter what, or just hanging out at a friend's birthday party, there's always something to just be gathered in terms of just getting in the now and in the moment. I would say the series that I work with, I guess you would say, is just mankind in general, mankind, womankind, just everything about us is a series that's worth documenting. And I think what I've done last year was the most important series of my life. I went to places that I went to a huge anniversary of Dr. King's March on Washington. There, I was surrounded by so many people who were really hungry for change and evolution in the next stage of social justice. I went down to Gettysburg and Carlisle. I went everywhere I could and I just saw how people were in their own environment.
Can you describe a little more of the protests that you've been to? Like, I assume that you went to the Black Lives Matter protest in Harrisburg. I think you mentioned that, and the Dr. King. But were there any protests that you thought were really impactful, or you got some really great pictures of?
Well, that's a good question. The way I see it, I actually like all my photos, to be honest. I can't really say I have a favorite, but if I can say there was um, one memorable event that I went to. It was a rally during election season, and that's not to say that I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. I do not really care for all of that, but I think it was very important because it was a reflection on how our country is and how our desire to make America great isn't really all that's cracked up to be. And I'll explain this in a minute. So, me and my friends were actually planning to do a Halloween shoot. And I said, okay, I'll meet you at the Capitol. And as soon as I'm driving down to Capitol, oh, we just see a whole bunch of Trump supporters down over there. I give my friends a call. We meet down over there and we just observed everything. And I went in with my camera. I just took shots. I've seen everything. I've seen people just waving their flags in the air. They're definitely using their Second Amendment with their guns. They're just doing everything and anything they can to support the Conservative Party and to a greater extent Donald Trump. And I remember a time in the day where they were standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I decided to do my own protesting and knelt. And as I got up, there was an individual who walked up to me and he had, I believe, a semi automatic rifle strapped to his chest. And he walked towards me and he said, well, if you don't like it, you can always just leave. You can just go in terms of getting out of the country. Interesting because here we have a bunch of people coming over to this part of the city that I have never seen before, a day in my life. They're so bold and so brash and so ready to take charge, and yet they become intimidated when they see a single individual kneel, doing what they're doing in terms of just using their freedom of speech and using the First Amendment. And it was so important for me because I've never agreed with the idea of make America great again because it was never great in the first place. I believe that it is simply a country that has been the creator and the destroyer. Like the creator, in terms of just finding this country, taking it from innocent people, and using it for its own instant gratification, destroying from their native lands, kicking people out their native lands, putting Japanese people in internment camps, using the ICE to find illegal immigrants and round them up as if they're animals. All of that and more doesn't really give me that much hope. And just seeing that in that moment where good people are blinded by their own sense of romanticism in this country doesn't really help me. But it is very important, imperative moment where I can capture this and document this for future generations. Whether they're Trump supporters or not, whether they're Biden supporters or not, I believe this moment was a moment of history.
Those words are really impactful. Thank you for sharing them. Can you show us some of your photography? Can you screen share on your computer right now and show us some things that you've taken photos of?
I believe I have my Instagram here. Let me see if I can find one of the protesting events. Let's see here. Okay, so you're gonna help me out here. I gotta figure out how to screen share this. Let me see, share the screen. Okay, can you guys see it now?
Yes.
Okay, just give me one moment here. This was a recent protest. This was back in April 24th, 2021. Conservative Americans gathered around on the steps of Pennsylvania State Capitol complex, and they were just pretty much advocating for their side instead of just for Tom Wolfe, because the recent 2020 events have not really been favorable in terms of COVID, which prevented small time workers from doing their things, and a lot of people took heart to that. So they decided to be up in arms, not employment aspect, but also the need to wear the masks, the need to get their COVID shots, everything and more. And they felt like they were being oppressed. And so they came down here to these Capitol steps and just decided to voice their opinions.
Did you by chance talk to any of these people?
I talked to a few of them, but I decided just to respect the space, not really say anything, not really attempt to antagonize anybody at all. That wasn't really my goal. My goal was just to document and just to see what everything was about.
Would you say you
People
have
come up and talk to me, so I figured I'd.
a picture's worth 1,000
Oh, I'm
words?
sorry. What did you say?
Would you say you have a picture's
Yes,
worth 1,000 words mentality?
I believe so. I try not to go into that mentality a lot in terms of I keep it humble. I let my camera do the talking, never really myself. I My whole goal when it comes to photography is let people decide whether this is something taking a look at. I never just say, "Hey, look at my photos. Aren't I the best photographer around?" I just say, "If you want, take a look and tell me what you think." And people really do like my stuff, and I'm very appreciative of that. I think that's probably just the artist part of me, just trying to keep it real.
Sorry. And then in what ways has photography kind of allowed you to make a change?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
Yes. In what ways has photography allowed you to make a change?
Whew, man, you guys are just killing me with these good questions here. I'm not sure. I think when I started out photography, there was a lot of uncertainty of my future and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to be. There were some points in my life where be with the current situation that I was in, whether it be just jobs that I didn't like, or I was staying in school and I was wondering if this was just my life. And all of a sudden, photography just happened just to be there. With that, I learned how to make new friendships, to just be creative, and it really definitely had um, a therapeutic moment for me. I really do believe that mental health should be taken care of respectfully and properly. And photography was one of the best coping mechanisms I ever had in terms of my mental health. So not only professionally has this helped me out, but this really did help me out mentally. Everyone out? No. Everyone has their own positive coping mechanisms that they need to figure out. Mine was just photography.
And for those of us who might be pursuing a photography, might be pursuing anything that we might find therapeutic or important, can you give us some advice on that?
There is no such thing as the perfect photographer. There will be no such thing as the perfect shot. There is no such thing as the perfect should go on their own pace, whether it's photography or any form of art, and just go with it. There should be no judgments. There should be no negativity. There should only be trial and error, and there should only be just a sense of, I want to do this, and I am willing to go through whatever means necessary to accomplish my goal.
Thank you so much, June, for sharing, and thank you for being here with us today and for sharing your journey to about photography and all that. And thank you, everyone who's watching, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, thank you so much, guys. I hope you have a wonderful night.